Hello, I'm Butch Miller. It seems here on the YouTube community that there's a, shall we say, difference of opinion between Mr. Paul Robinette, or Renetto, and Mr. Greg Solomon. It would appear that the main difference of opinion is the use of, as Mr. Solomon would put it, entrepreneurship, and Mr. Renetto's use of PayPal buttons on the site. Now, Mr. Renetto's position seems to be that providers of what he refers to as original content, meaning the type of content you're seeing right now, ought to be compensated for their work, if you will, that they do to provide this content on site. Now, as Mr. Solomon, I might say, correctly points out, it is against the YouTube terms of use agreement, if you will, to solicit funds for uploading, shall we say, original content. Now, I think that it's safe to say that that is in fact true. That according to the YouTube terms of service, one cannot solicit funds. Shall we say, when I speak of funds, I'm speaking of monetary funds. I mean, there's different forms of payment on the site, of views. Popularity is a form of currency. But I believe what Mr. Paul Robinette, or Renetto, is trying to get at is how can I make money, as Mr. Solomon states. So, where we stand on this is that Mr. Renetto is looking for a way to make a buck, as Mr. Solomon states, and Mr. Solomon's position is that making a buck on the site violates the terms of service. Now, he also goes on to say that such a avenue of pursuit would, what he would say, sully the site. Now, sully basically means to degrade the site. He feels that YouTubers soliciting funds is the same thing as panhandling. In other words, a panhandler, for example, for those of you who have not been approached by a panhandler, and this is an important point, a panhandler is somebody who would say, when you're leaving the supermarket, for example, and you're walking to your car, and they walk up to you and they say, "Hey, you got a buck?" Or maybe something else, "Hey, you got a smoke? You got a couple smokes? Can you bum a smoke? Can I bum a smoke?" Now, true enough, that is a panhandler. However, I do not believe that fits, that definition of panhandling fits the PayPal button argument, or argument against, as the case may be here on YouTube. You see, I think that the PayPal button, let's put aside for a second that it is against the terms of service. But I think of the PayPal button on the side as a way of people who want to support an artist, support somebody who, or a YouTuber who has content that they enjoy watching, It's a way for somebody to acknowledge, it's a way for them to, it's a vote, if you will. It's saying, hey, I like your content. I'm going to contribute to it. It does not mean that the individual who's placing the content, original content, on the site is a panhandler, because they are not coming to you for fun. They're not hitting you up for money. So the definition of panhandling, at least in my opinion, does not apply. However, it may or may not be tasteful, as Mr. Solomon puts it. I leave that up to the individual, whether or not it's tasteful to solicit funds, or to accept funds, or even to give funds on the site. It is, however, a violation of the terms of service. Now that brings me to my next point, which is that there are other sites, in fact a site that derives a certain amount of revenue from this site, and that would be Google. Now Google, for example, allows one to upload a video, and you can upload it and you can just let people watch it for free if you'd like. However, you also have the opportunity to collect as much as 70% on every dollar that you collect. Now, Google takes the other 30 cents out of every dollar. But you do have the opportunity to procure these funds. Now, if people like Renetto were to go to Google and put their characters on there in charge, they would theoretically leave YouTube. And since YouTube derives a lot of its revenue through the Google ads that you see over on the right side of your screen, should enough popular YouTubers leave and go to Google, say, where they can charge for their content, I would assume that YouTube would want to perhaps change its terms of service. Now, should it change its terms of service so that it allows some mechanism to allow people to collect revenue through something other than the PayPal button, because I don't see how YouTube could collect from a PayPal account, an individual PayPal account, because they would have no idea what's being contributed. However, should they put something in place similar to Google, then I believe that they could theoretically have the best of both worlds, and I do not believe it is panhandling, because it is a voluntary contribution given by the individual who's watching the video under no duress or pressure from the provider of the content. So, should YouTube change its terms of service, I would assume that Mr. Solomon would not have a problem with this, since Mr. Solomon appears to be a very by-the-book individual, which I applaud. And Mr. Robinette would enjoy this because it would allow him to finally find a way to, as his character would put it, make money off the YouTubes. So therefore, I put it to the YouTube community and the YouTube powers that be. Perhaps this is a avenue that's worth, shall we say, looking into. So, until such a time, and this is my thoughts on the subject, and I hope that Mr. Robinette and Mr. Solomon can come to a equitable, shall we say, agreement between the two, because I believe they are both talented members of the community. So, until next time, this is Butch Miller asking you to take care.